family, how I our own what our own get for get everybody where are you where are you where are you I'm looking for you looking for you where are where are you where around looking for me where this is yeah share, share wherever you search it here come on let's let's get started and where are you this is welcoming every one of you to Light Juice with Mama Helen. Light Juice with Mama Helen. We decided to do it this Friday instead of tomorrow because of the election that is taking place in Nigeria. Where are you? Come on, everyone. This is the time to come in. Come on, share, 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 share. Click on the share button. It's really going to be excited today. It's really, really going to be excited today. So come in wherever you are. Come in wherever you are. Come in, come in, come in, come in, come in, come in, wherever you are. And then, of course, share. You need to click on the share button. Click on the share button. We're going to be discussing, okay, spouse beater. Spouse beater. We're quite familiar with what took place with Osinachi. That was last year, by the way, how things went. And of course, I mean, that finally led to our demise, our husbands, Christians abuse and what have you, and our unwillingness to speak out and so on and so forth, which finally led to our death. And so that's what we're actually going to be looking at, today. So I need you to click on the share button, family, and start pulling in people. I am happy. I'm seeing evangelists. Come on, come on, come on. Let us share, 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 and share. It's going to be awesome today. It's going to be powerful. And listen. The beauty of today's program is that you will be able, a time would come that you will be able, okay, to call in. You can call in. I've been able to get everything situated to allow that to happen. You can actually call in during the course of this program. All right, it's really going to be wonderful. So click on the share button, see how you can bring in as many people possible. Come on, pull in people right now. Yes, today's excitement and exciting program. It's no other than Light Juice with Mama Helen. And we're looking at the topic that resonates with domestic violence. Domestic violence. We want to see how we can mitigate it. We want to see how we can bring it into fall, and then, of course, shed some light on it so that this aspect of our society can actually be nipped on the board. We want to see how we can address it together today. So wherever you are, blessed. It's so nice. I'm glad. I'm happy. Daniel, fantastic. Come on, share. Click on the share button. If you've never been a victim, maybe an aunt of yours or sister of yours or friend might be one. Most times they don't even talk about it because, we are taught, especially women, we're taught not to so much talk about things like this. Okay, to people, we are meant to protect our, spouses. We are meant to protect them. But when you look at the issue of Osinachi, all right, um, I mean, perhaps maybe if she had spoken out, that could have been prevented. Our mothers also went through things like this, but they never talked about it. They never talked about it, which is extremely sad, which is extremely sad. And that's why we're doing our very best to keep getting into some programs like this, and the possibility of throwing light, on it. And then, of course, seeing how we can nip it on the board, or at least tame it to a large extent. And the women who are actually under this terrible, terrible situation can actually speak out. They can actually speak out. Well, listen, it's not just going to be me that will be doing all the talking today, because we have three wonderful people that will be joining in. The very first person on the list is coming in from the United Kingdom, London here, perhaps, or London area, Mrs. Fechi Ungunadi. Mrs. Mrs. Feshin Gonadi, she's a founder / CEO, Fetches Drinks UK, and she's also a founder, Wailing Voices UK lawyer. All right, she's going to be joining in from the UK, and I am excited already, about them. And then we're also going to be having Miss Hannah Amaka Chinedu. Miss Hannah Amaka Chinedu, she's a special assistant to the First Lady of Anambra State, Nigeria. She is also a founder / CEO Now Foundation UK. So you can see the list of tonight is really exciting already. And then we also have an Honorable Osana Jalogo Williams, who apparently is an environmental consulting an activist. He is a former chief consultant to the Delta State government on ecology and Delta State Ministry of Environment. So today is going to be wow. It's going to be wow. And it's all on the subject on spouse beta. Spouse beta. I'm going to be bringing them in shortly. So, but I still need you to click on the share button. Let's see as many people that we can bring in today to the glory of God. By the way, I'm already having them in one after the other. I'm going to be harding them to the screen, and then they will also come in to do justice to the day's program. Okay. Well, such a pleasure, ladies. I'm having some of the ladies in. Wow, wow, wow. This is glorious. This is wonderful. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Evening.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. Good evening. Can you
Good
try introducing
evening.
yourself one after the other so that our audience can participate, or at least get to know you better, and then they can understand who we're having as guests today, and the richness of the program as well. Please, can you please? Yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure. Yeah, my name is Hannah Marka. I'm the special assistant to the wife of the governor of Anambra State, and I'm also a founder of Now Foundation UK.
Oh, it's a
Thank
pleasure
you.
seeing you on Mama Helen, like just with Mama Helen. And then, of
Thank you.
course, may we also know you, please?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, firstly, Mama Helen, for the opportunity to speak on this platform. This is actually a topic I'm very, very passionate about.
Yes.
My name is Betty. I'm an entrepreneur. I own a company. I run a ministry with women who have been, women who've been through a lot, help them walk throughout that. So, yes, and I reside in the UK.
Okay, in the UK. Well, it's such a pleasure having both of you. This is really exciting. So we're going to the question one order, and the very question here: what does violence mean in marriage? Let us start with what does violence mean in marriage? Let us start with Miss Hannah.
Well, violence is not acceptable. I'm a victim. I've been a victim of violence. I just came out of marital violence for over 22 years. So for me, it's terrible. You know, that was being abused for over 22 years, and I just recently got out of it. And for me,
Oh,
I don't think anyone should go into should go through this. It's a trauma. I went through trauma for like 10 years trauma. So I don't think anything. I think we should all have a happy marriage. You know, we shouldn't be in a marriage that we're not able to express ourselves or just be ourselves. I got married to a narcissist. So he was a narcissist, and
oh,
yeah,
mhm.
he was a terrible one. So I didn't really enjoy my marriage. So for me, I just feel that everyone should have a very fantastic one. Um,
And are you saying it went on for the whole of 22 years before you finally decided to leave?
yeah, it took me that much because I was because I'm a strong believer of
Mm.
Christ. So for me, it was like for better for worst. I'm going to be in this marriage is for better for worst. But I don't think marriage is for better for worst. You know, because we're supposed to be happy so that we can be able to express ourselves.
Okay.
And so I've been in this marriage.
Yeah.
I couldn't I couldn't even my kid was he's terrible.
Oh my God. I can imagine. I can imagine. Well, let me quickly go to. By the way, we have Honorable Sanad with us, but it's a little dark, so I actually really didn't see you until I started, noticing some movement, and then it alerted me as well. Can you try brightening up where you are? Perhaps maybe a little bit of light on your face so that we can see you, Honorable. But whilst you're doing the adjustment, let us go
It's
to Miss
so
Fetchy.
it's
Mrs. Fetchy,
actually very
what,
dark.
what, what does violence mean in marriage? What is violence?
Violence is abuse, and abuse can take any shape or form. Abuse can be mentally, abuse can be physically, abuse can be financial. So, because like I said to you, I deal with women on a very, very on a daily basis who come in with various forms, you know, abuse. A partner might not hit you, but he might abuse you mentally in the sense he calls you names that demean who you are, names that trample on your confidence, or you have a partner who might abuse you financially where
Mhm.
you don't, you know, you might not be working because you're taking care of the children, maybe because that's the agreement you have, and then
Mhm.
making the money, and then on the flip side you're not getting anything. You have to ask for every pound or every cent to do things. That's an abuse. And then obviously we have the typical one, the most typical one, which is the physical violence. So domestic violence is abuse of any shape or form.
Okay.
And as human beings, we are entitled to be free from all forms of abuse. So when you have someone treating you as a lesser person, that's
Mhm.
an
That's abusive. That's
yeah.
what you're trying to say. So, abuse or domestic violence isn't only just when it's physical. I think that's what I get from what you have said. But mental torture, you know, um, through verbal abuse, financial denial, and many other things mentioned. Oh, that's quite deep. I wouldn't know if Honorable had something to say concerning that. Now it's clear. We can see your face. It's
Thank
okay.
you. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of Like
Yes.
Jesus, my Helen.
I am. Yes, I'm going to speak on the psychological aspect of battery.
Okay.
It's actually, you begin to wonder when the relationship started, how lovely it was, how sweet it was,
Mm-hmm.
what could have happened that moved it from the sweet aspect of it into bitterness.
Hmm.
As a matter of fact, the moods could have swung:
Hmm.
anger, resentment,
Mm-hmm.
certain issues that were supposed to have been discussed amicably,
That's
and
right.
then there is a concealment of
Mm-hmm.
it,
Mm-hmm.
not discussing it at the appropriate time,
Mm-hmm.
or this anger is stored. A man from the beginning was designed by God
That's
having
right.
come from the Y chromosome,
Mm-hmm.
the woman having come from the X chromosome. So, from the beginning, the biological aspect of the man is different from that of the woman.
Yes.
A lot of men will conceal anger for such a long time, even though women do theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But the outburst of a man's anger is usually exerted by physical abuse, while the woman can be verbal in most cases.
In most cases, yeah.
So communication channel is usually very important in any relationship. However, there are some issues that can make a man move from one level of anger to the other.
Okay.
For example, frustration in the marriage,
Mm.
certain issues that is no longer comfortable with. When I say frustration, I mean his status
Mm-hmm.
financially can make the man drift, from happiness into sadness,
And
because
and the next thing is that he's thinking of taking it on his wife. Now, I have to come in here, and the reason is, because I want us to be able to, elaborate a little bit more on this, because then the next question would have been, what are the causes of violence in marriage, for example,
mm,
and
mm,
getting into it, for example, depression, frustration,
mm,
financial, um, income,
yeah, yeah,
financial difficulty or incapability,
mm,
as the case may be, and all.
mm,
But when we look at the issue of uh, Miss Hannah Amaka Chinedu, Miss
Yeah,
mm,
Hannah Amaka Chinedu, I mean, was there anything, because you went through this? This
I
is,
went through
we're
that.
not just talking. We're not being as atmospheric right now. We had someone who had been through this, who came out. I mean, she had been through it for 22 years. What would you think might be the cause or causes, as it were, that led to violence in your home? Oh,
I believe it's lack of communication, and when there's no togetherness,
hmm,
and obviously if the other party doesn't participate in family prayers, that's one thing I think, because a family that prays together stays together.
so true.
So when it all started, when he started debriefing from this from faith, he
I'm,
Oh,
wouldn't
I'm,
come to church.
I'm
Yeah, he
sorry.
wouldn't come to. So,
longer. Okay, so am I to assume that he might have been a Christian, right?
yeah, he's a Christian.
Okay.
So when he want to go to church, he doesn't want to participate. Then obviously the devil starts coming in, and try to mess up the marriage. You see, so
So
it all
lack of communication, lack of interests in
lack
religion,
of interest, lack of
in faith,
communication.
in his faith,
Yeah, in his faith,
in his.
and obviously without God, I don't believe any marriage would work. So when you don't have God in it, it doesn't. It never works.
Problem.
So
Yes.
that's when the whole problem started. I would try to encourage him to come, come to God to church with us, but he wouldn't want to come. You see, so, yeah.
Terrible, terrible, terrible. Okay, well, this is your area, Mrs. Fetcher. This is your area. How can you relate to this? Because I mean, you're hearing from someone. There's a difference between speaking about being theoretical, and there's another thing speaking out of experience. Okay, all right. So, how would you be able to classify? I mean, judging by the things you had just mentioned now, relating to what could be the bane behind violence in
It's amazing how when we talk about domestic violence and when we talk about a lot of things that go on in marriage, we tend to ignore the core. And the core of it is that whether we like it or not, there is an influence. Let me put allow me, if you may, the word of God says the devil comes to steal, to kill, and to destroy.
That's right.
And it says in the word that do not be ignorant of the devices of the enemy.
That's right.
And it also says the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. What we understand is that we are fighting against things that are unseen. Now, whether we want to appreciate it or not, the devil has his grips on marriage because he knows when I destroy a marriage, I can destroy a whole entity. I can destroy a whole generation. So marriage is a special space for the devil. Now, when we talk about what triggered the domestic violence, why did it hit or why did she abuse it, blah blah blah. We tend to look at the peripheral. Oh, he was frustrated, she was angry, she used negative words. But what we don't understand is that half the time, not even half the time, 100% of the time, there is demonic influence.
Okay.
So
bringing spirituality to this now. Okay.
Yes, because I have to bring spirituality into it because that's the core. A lot of people don't understand it. Like I said to you, I've been into the pit of this of domestic violence. I've seen it go in, I've seen it come out, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So in all of that conclusion, I've come to this because also my Bible tells me this. That is what the word of God says. And so you tend to find whether like it or not, if we don't understand that that's where our problem comes from and stand and say, you know what, devil, I see what you're doing in my home. Because the devil won't come to your house and say, oh, hey, fight with B. The devil won't do that. What the devil will do is use his tools and his mechanisms, because the devil is very smart.
Yes.
He'll use tools and his mechanisms. So he'll send, hey, you confused, spirit of confusion, go into that home and bring about misunderstanding and confusion. Hey, you spirit of frustration, you go in and just frustrate that man a little bit. Because when you frustrate him, then he takes it out on his wife. When he takes it out on the wife and he hits her, then with the children. When she leaves the children, then we have a dysfunctional home. So do you see? So we can't discuss this without appreciating the fact that it's deeply spiritual. Now, like what Hannah said as well, Hannah said, her husband started to deviate when church wasn't a priority for him anymore. Church wasn't a priority for him anymore. So that was a turning point. But a family indeed that prays together stays together. So for me, while we try to appreciate the environmental factors or every other factors that we can see or we can absorb, we need to understand that it is deeper than that.
That's right.
It is honestly, Mama Helen,
yes.
If someone was to go into a marriage now
yes.
and experience domestic violence, right? Honestly speaking, chances are 75.9, right?
Yes.
If she goes into a next marriage, chances are it's going to happen again. It is going to happen again. It might not be the guy hits her, but it might be some form of abuse.
Okay.
Because you know what?
Yes.
Core is
You know,
still existing.
mhm.
And until you understand the core and deal with the core, it will not go.
It will not go. You're quite right about that. You know, Blessing just interjected by saying that lack of communication in marriage, you know, it's really the bane, or well, a strong, perhaps a stronger point as a result of violence. Well, would you allude to that, Honorable? Because I mean, with someone
Mama,
that's, you know,
Mama Helen,
from all
yes,
indication, yeah.
communication is very important
Mhm.
in every relationship,
Yes,
And another aspect I'm looking at,
yes,
taking into cognizance some few experiences I've had in the past, is the fact that we have to look at the nurturing
yes.
aspect of the person and
Mm,
the nurturing aspect of that person.
mm, mm.
I remember once conducting a research and
Yes.
was looking at a woman who was pregnant, or rather, who is pregnant,
Okay.
and she delivers, she puts to bed, a pair of twins.
Okay.
And then, um, very poor woman, no money and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody comes to her and says, "Oh, since you can't take care of these children, let me go with one of them to Lagos." Of course, the
Okay.
woman being in the village.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes with one of them, left
Okay.
the other one with the child, with the woman in the
Okay.
village.
Mm-hmm.
When the man gets to Lagos,
Mm-hmm.
gets another letter asking him to represent Nigeria in the United Nations in Washington. 25 years thereafter,
Okay.
the behavioral tendencies of those two children can never be the same.
So true. So you're talking about upbringing now.
Nature, nurture controversy.
But wow.
There is a big mistake. There's something that we don't take cognizance of.
Okay.
When we are in love, when mankind, the human being, is in love, most times you forget to study or to look at the person critically.
Yes.
There are some people who have these behavioral tendencies of abusive approach when
Okay.
they get angry, you know. So, whether you like it or not, it must show at the initial stage, but most times we just say, "Oh, maybe it's a mistake." And men, for I'm talking as a man,
Yes.
men who abuse women are very, very apologetic.
How they?
Very, very apologetic. Some of them even go to the extent of shedding tears, when they are trying to apologize.
Mm-hmm.
Such a person, it takes the grace of God to change that behavior.
But if you
That is the truth.
depends if you're dealing with a narcissist, for example, if you're
Yeah.
dealing with a narcissist, I mean, you look at the tendency with narcissism, you would see that
I
people,
understand.
all right, you know, it could the person who has such a character might
Mhm.
be gaslighting, might be telling the other party that, oh, you're the reason behind my smacking you, or my being physical
Yeah.
with you, or being abusive, whether it is emotional, mental, or
No, yes,
mental torture,
usually the
or what have you. Oh dear, he went off. All right. Well, maybe by the time he's back. But this is coming from Dr. Abigail from the US, and she said, "Husbands, when you look at your wife, you're looking at a part of you. So treat her well and speak tenderly, nourish and cherish the love of your life." I mean, isn't that on point right there? What would you have to say? Um, Concerning that, uh, um, Miss Hannah.
Sorry, concerning what? I beg your pardon?
Okay, I just read out a comment actually
Yeah.
coming from uh, Dr. Abigail from the US. And she said, husbands, when you look at your wife,
Mm.
you're looking at a part of you. So treat her well and speak tenderly, nourish and cherish the love of your life. I mean, what do you have to say concerning that? What do you think?
I never experienced that. So
Got it from-
sorry,
you never got it from him.
I
He was
never got it from him.
he was never loving.
He was never loving. And
Hmm.
it's one of those things when I just want to advise people, when you want to get into a relationship, make sure you love that person and that person really loves you. Because if you get into a relationship maybe for the wrong reasons, then you find out that is the wrong person for you. And it's always very, I always tell my kids, make sure that the person you're with is God's purpose for your life.
Hmm.
Because even I prayed about it, I seek God's counsel about it, I don't think I would have gone into what I went through, because it was a huge trauma. I'm still trying to come out of the whole
Imagine,
incident.
imagine.
Yeah. And this
And
was just over 2 years ago, you see.
oh
So
my, have your children? Banjo?
sorry?
Have your
Yeah,
children?
I've got three kids. I've got 20
Did
years
they
old.
witness this as well?
Yeah, they witness it, but
Right?
I try to hide it away from them. I try to hide it because it's something like I don't want. It's a thing I want to share. It's my
Mhm.
story, you see. So I always say to people, just make sure that if you go into a relationship, that you have God has hands in it. Because I didn't. That was the mistake I made. I didn't
Okay.
have that. God has hand in it. There's no way I would have gone through what I went through.
Yes, I can imagine. Now, can I ask this question though? I mean,
Yeah.
how now this question is actually to Mrs. Fechi. Could inferiority complex also be one of the factors?
Oh, completely, 100%. Especially you tend to see a lot of that when a woman is making more money than the husband. And then, the ego, obviously he can't be so egoistic anymore, so the inferiority complex starts to set in. And
Mm-hmm.
that is a very, very massive factor.
Mm-hmm. Inferiority complex. Well, um, maybe I would need you to shed a little bit of light, into this. The reason why I'm asking is that, I mean, there's this tendency for, especially in Africa, when, I mean, a man is seen as being masculine, and so on, larger than life. And a woman is seen as being fragile and what have you. What could lead to inferiority
Uh,
complex?
it's a
Okay.
lot,
Can you
especially,
shed a bit of light?
especially coming from Africa.
Mhm.
Upbringing has a lot to do with it, because and that's why I have three amazing children now, and I don't joke with my boys. I make sure they wash in the kitchen, they try to cook, because back in the days, our mother, I have a brother, so I know how my mom brought my brother up. She brought him up to understand that he's the man. He doesn't need to learn how to cook. He needs to assume this position. He needs to do this and he needs to do that. So that already has influenced something that has created a mind shift, that
Mhm.
when a man goes into a marriage, he expects the same thing from his wife.
Yes.
Now, when she starts to make more money, then you see that it rubs off in a negative way on his
Mm,
ego. Just
mm.
the amazing sister said, the amazing sister from America, she said, a man should treat the wife as much as he does. It's in the Bible. Love your wife as Christ loved the church. If a man truly loves his wife as much as he loves himself, a lot of these
As such,
factors.
should be seen as a success as well.
Exactly. But a lot of men don't look at it that way. I had a friend who, you know, um, when they got married, she started to take care of the kids. Obviously, he was working, she wasn't working. And then, when she picked up after taking care of the children had grown to a bit. She was doing very, really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then just because he didn't want her to get to that point where she earns a little bit more, he had to stop her from working.
That's
You see how that plays? That ego drove him to say, no, you're not working again. Stay at home and take care of the kids. I
oh
have
my.
a friend who doesn't even have a bank account. She's 50. She doesn't have a bank account because
Mm-hmm.
when she once had a bank account and she had a lot of money, it affected his ego. So to soothe his ego, she's not allowed to work. She's not allowed to have a bank account.
Uh-huh.
So these things that fed off upbringing has affected a lot of things, and it's a massive, massive factor.
So infertility can be applied. I'll have to always come back to you because
Yeah,
you were a victim.
I was a victim.
Thanks that. I mean, were you then a special assistant to the first lady of
No,
Anambra?
all this changed when I came out of the marriage. I came back to my, because I lost my identity during those periods. And like what Fechi was saying, before then, when I was with him, I was the breadwinner. I worked for like 9 years. He was not doing anything. So I used to work in the council, one of the best council in London, and it's called Islington Council, as a chief cashier.
Okay.
So I will come back from work, and he's just so insecure. Like, where have you been? You've been to this guy, and all those things were all lies. And I was pregnant then, because of the whole incident with his stress, the stress he gives me.
Yes.
I lost the baby.
Oh.
So it's a serious thing. If it's really serious.
Awesome. Okay, now let me read this from Letitia. Letitia from South Africa, and she's saying, abusive approach at first appears as if a man is caring. Is caring only to realize that in the long run, within the marriage, it is the most toxic action ever. Once you highlight the problem, he will say you experienced from it's your experience from the beginning. You should know. You should have known. I can't change from who I am. What happens then with therapy? Would therapy be enough? I think that's what she's trying to say. So in
Can I come in?
yeah, please go ahead.
Thing is, when you're in relationship level, there's this level of care that a man gives a woman that we assume that, oh, he's extra loving, he's extra caring, but it is very possessive tendencies that is being displayed that we don't get.
Yeah.
Oh, I called you 5 minutes ago, you didn't pick my call, why didn't you do that? And we're on the flip side feeling, oh, I'm so special, he's thinking about me, or he's asking, why I didn't, pick his call. That is very possessive tendency. And because you've not curbed it at that time, or you framed it with something else, such as, oh, he's extra caring, or he's extra loving, you see a greater level of it in marriage. Because we all have been married, so I think we can all agree to an extent that what you see in relationship, expect way more worse in marriage. I'm not saying in a bad way, but marriage is a lot different from a relationship. Now, therapy can help.
Therapy can help. Definitely.
But honestly, I will tell you what I can guarantee that will work 100% is prayer.
I love that. I love that. That is important. Okay, but beyond that, or outside of spending time praying together as husband and wife, there are other things that I believe that can also be done. But before we get into that, let me quickly read this from Ata. Ata says, love is not enough in every relationship. It's not what makes a relationship to last. This is because a lot of people love themselves, but they are not together.
I agree.
What makes a relationship to last is understanding, commitment, and the ability to change your wrong behavior. that affects the relationship. That's deep. Yes, very true. When both parties or one part refuses to change, the relationship will not last. Even if you both love yourself very much, change is a catalyst in lasting relationship. If you can, uh, well, I think it stops somewhere. What do you have to say concerning this? I mean, she has just told us that, yeah, I mean, people can develop certain, character traits, or should I even say, maybe if they don't have a positive influence on them growing up, okay, and then as a result of that, maybe they develop some character traits that are not as palatable, bringing it into marriage and all that. I mean, the whole essence of being a believer is to allow the word of God, okay, to make, to transform us. Let me use that word transformation, to transform us from what we used to be to a new nature that is embedded in the word of God. Don't you think?
I
What do you?
agree.
Yes, please go ahead.
I agree completely. Like just this, the sister that the sister from America, from South Africa. She's very, very correct. Love is absolutely not enough, because love is like it's on a flow. It's like when you say you've got your monthly flow. It's on a flow. It sparks up, it comes down, it sparks up, it comes down. But what really keeps that marriage together is commitment. You see, when you say, you know what, let's agree that we're never going to go the divorce way, right? That means, that doesn't mean I would never have problems with you or you would never have problems with me. That simply means when we have a problem, we are going to figure out a way to sort that problem out. That is the commitment speaking. And in that commitment comes understanding, because when you said, listen, I said, I'm not going to leave my husband, then you start to look at ways that, okay, I think I might need to be a bit understanding. I need to understand his perspective more. I need to look, into his reasoning a lot more. But like I said, I've met a couple. I met a couple who, this young man was very, very set in his ways. And, he had that upbringing that, I'm the man, I'm absolutely correct, I cannot be wrong. So question is, what do you do in that situation? You see, then commitment doesn't actually do the job you expect it to do, because when you
No,
say,
but you think if there is commitment, see, let's look at this very critically. If there is commitment between two people, evidently, the grace or the willingness to do what will make the other party happy. I'm not talking about going to an extreme situation, like I think was printed, I don't know, if I'm not mistaken, by Miss Hannah, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was you that gave the example, Mrs. Feche, on the need for the wife to stop working or something, or there
Yeah.
was someone who quoted that, along.
I think it was me.
It was you.
Yeah, when the man wants to be the woman in the house, that's where the
Yes,
problem is. He wants you to be the one to do the work, to go to the work, to
yes,
get the money in,
yes.
and he's very insecure.
It's
You
very
know,
insecure. Same time,
yeah.
so
So
that's tip. That's awesome. Oh my God, Prince is saying my network is very bad. Okay, try doing your best, Prince, to see how you can get it. Uh, when you are abused, you lose self-esteem, and this would take us to the next question. When you're abused, you lose self-esteem. All right. Now the next question is, here it is. What are the psychological effects of spouse abuse? And guess who I'm going to?
Hannah,
Can you try
yeah,
and do that for us? Yes.
that self-esteem thing it really hit me because I used to be someone that's very outgoing. I used to be someone that people look up to. Everyone come to me for advice. But when I went through this, it just made me feel small. It made me feel so small because he would always latch on me. there's never a thing I do that's always correct. Everything is wrong. Everything is wrong. And, he doesn't encourage me in any way. So when I came out of it, I had to start finding myself, I had to start finding who I am. Then it takes a lot of prayers, just accepting myself again, begin to find out who I am, that I'm worth more, you see.
Okay. Now, and I love the way you put it. Who am I? I'm one more. I have more value than it. I'm more than this. This is fantastic. And so, let me ask this question: why is it then so difficult for victims to easily walk out of such relationships?
It has to come through realization that you're going to have to realize something is not right,
Mm-hmm.
Because I stayed in this marriage for a long time because of the love I have for God. Simply because of the love. I would Google, can I leave the marriage secretly to see if I can leave? But it's for better for us, I'll see. You have to be in this marriage because I love God. Sometimes I'll drop the kids to school and I'll be in the car. I'm like, God, is this what you want for me? Is this my purpose? I need to get out of this marriage. I'm not happy. I'll pray, cry, but when God come true for you.
That's
So
right.
basically, it came into that realization when I said, I'm free. I feel like I have to say this. You see, I know it's a bit sensitive, but I feel someone out there needs to hear this.
Yeah.
So you
Please.
have to realize that this is not good for you anymore, because otherwise you'll be there and you might even die. Because what happened to Osinachi is similar to what happened to me. I came to the point where I would sleep and I would stop breathing. I had like more than 7 episodes of sleeping. And one day I was just telling my sister, you know what, anything that happens to me, please take care of the kids. I was like, wait a minute. Does this man want me dying for him? I'm like, no, I have to do something. I started thinking, what am I going to do? Then I started seeking for help. Every woman needs to look for help. You have to find out, speak to someone. How can I do this? Tell someone, share your story with someone. And so that's where you might get the encouragement on what to do. So I started speaking to aides, and all that. So I now found out there is help,
Wow.
So that's how I got myself out of that marriage. That's how I
Yes.
got myself out of it.
Next question would mean how, at what time should you start looking or seeking for help? What time?
At the point whereby you're not happy anymore, you cannot even express yourself. You cannot even talk to this person. It's like you're cohabiting. You can't. There's no affection. There's no affection. There's no love. It's like, just stay your own and be my own. Because sometimes it's downstairs, I'm upstairs.
Okay.
So, but it came to the point whereby my life, I had to save my life for my kids.
I know I might go a little bit deeper. Was he cheating?
He's not cheating. I don't really think he's cheating, but it's just that he's a narcissist, controlling freak.
The narcissist is very
very
controlling.
I cannot be myself around this man.
Would not only just be controlling, but would also gaslight as well.
Yes.
Would try to make your reality unreal.
It's like you're the one that is always at fault. You're the one that's always
your fault. It's your fault that I abused you. It's your fault that I raised my hands on you.
That's right.
Your fault, that I talk down on you. It's your fault that I ridicule you in the presence of people. You are the reason behind my, hitting you, and so on and so forth. So being married to one can be very, very, terrible, because they never take responsibility for.
They never take responsibility, and they feel that you're the one that is always wrong. You can't even talk to this person. You can't even have a normal conversation with this person. He doesn't relate with the kids. He doesn't. There's no joy around this person. You see, there's no joy around him. My kids are always on their own. They don't have any relationship with their dad. So why would you want to be in such a marriage? Why would you?
Terrible. We know that women also can be abusive, all right. But in generally, when you look at the aggregates, women seems to be at the receiving end when it comes to this. But whichever way it is also very apt on the need for us to talk about, marital abuse. Now, how do you resolve this? How do you solve? I think we just have less than 15 minutes handling this. How do you mitigate this? What must be done to stop this? Because you see, we can't continue to have such a violence, going on in our society. A lot of people have been lost, as a result of this. So many people have been lost. So can I ask Mrs. Feche, how do we mitigate this? How do we prevent this from happening? What must
I
be
think,
done?
firstly,
Yes.
we need to prevent that circle. Like you said, how do we mitigate this? Now, I'll play you a scenario.
Yeah.
A woman stays in a very, very abusive marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Let's assume she's got 2 girls and 2 boys who
Yes.
grow up seeing mommy and daddy living a very, very terrible track record of domestic violence of every sort.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you see, what that does is registers in the subconscious of that child. Now, those girls go ahead and get married to other husbands, and when they're being abused, they said, "Oh, mommy stayed, is all right, I will stay. This is my marriage, is do or die." So, and then you see in her marriage, her children see the same thing and they say it's all right. So we have that vicious circle. It just keeps going, going, going. Now, to stop that as a mother, when you see that you're being abused and it's very extreme, for your sake, and especially for your children's sake, because that's what a lot of Nigerian mothers do. Oh, my
Mm-hmm.
children can't leave, my children, I can't leave, I can't leave, I can't leave. But you're destroying these children.
Mm-hmm.
So to stop that from going into the next and the next and the next, you have to be the one that says, no, not my generation. I need to teach my daughters and my sons that this is not okay. That is one very good way to stop the continuity of domestic violence. And we know how word of mouth spreads, because tomorrow another a woman's daughter can say,
Just
listen,
a moment. Just a moment. Someone has been trying to call in.
oh,
Daniel, how are you? Hello. Good evening. Good evening, darling. How are you? Talk to us.
Please, yeah. Mommy, I would want to say something regarding to, a lot of times, a lot of women, they are really afraid. They don't know the time to leave, and they don't know the time to stay.
Okay.
In abusive marriage. I remember growing up as a young man between the early 90s.
Okay.
I was watching my late husband was abusing her. Not just only the husband, the mother-in-law will come all the way from the village and come to meet them in the city and start making our own rules in the house.
Okay.
Failure for the woman not to put to the mother-in-law's room became a problem in the marriage. And these were some of the stuff before the marriage took place. So before, at the point my mom was against the marriage, talking of something in the early 90s, as a young man, I was still with them. So sometimes these women, they don't know the time to leave. And I want to make an impression until the church thinking from our heads that abusive marriage, you have to endure. A lot of people that have endured this abusive marriage, they didn't live to tell the story. I can practically tell you that my sister is not alive, and it's painful that because at the end of the day, one of them, the person that lost their person, becomes the losing part. So
That's the truth. Like the Osinachi's episode, yes.
That don't make people look at it to see. Because the church has created this stigma that the woman that divorced her husband is evil. She's a sinner. She will corrupt other women in the church. So when you see them, even in the church organization, the church settings, they don't bring such women among the leadership of the church. So that is, you should see the discrimination already in church. So these are some of the fears. And you know, let me be frank, a total African woman likes to go to church.
That's right. Yes, we're hearing you.
A total African woman likes to go to church. If at the end of the day, she's taking the risk of divorcing or leaving her marriage because the marriage is failing for the sake of her life and everything, then she goes to the church. Then she feels that that is where she belongs, and the church is rejecting her. So these are areas that we need the church to come in and be saying and try to educate people. If you know you are, because in this time, most of the time, these people are not really compatible physically. But sometimes the church will tell you that with time, with prayer, love will come and the marriage will work out. Gone are those days when we believe our parents choose spouses for us.
Well, you've actually, Daniel, I think you've said it all. You said it all. I mean, for example, Osinachi wasn't going to talk about it because, of course, she also didn't want to be stigmatized. I mean, you know, I don't know what it is with us in Africa. We like to create an impression that all is well until things really get out of hand, of hands, you know. And I think that is the greatest challenge, you know, we have. You know, we want to, I mean, a wife wants to tell her friend, oh, my husband just bought me this, even when she used her money. Even though she used that money to buy it, because she wants to give an impression, you know, to her friend that, oh, my husband really takes good care of me, you know. So I think that's another thing that needs to be corrected. Don't you think? Thank you so very much, Daniel, for sharing your awesome. Thank you. Thank you again for speaking with us this evening. God bless you. All right. You know, that's another problem there, you know. Why is it that we like to, I don't know. What is it with us though? You know, your husband is not treating you very well, but then somehow you feel obligated to still protect him, even though he's not treating you well.
Long suffering.
Oh, Jesus. Oh my God. Oh my God. Well, anyway, what are the things? Let us be more solution driven now. How do we finally put an end to? Yes, fine. You need to leap. You need to. How do you even put that adage?
You need to come into realization that there's a problem.
You need to come in
and make a decision. That's the key. Because had even I'm still in that marriage, there's no way I would have been alive today. I would have ended. My life will have gone. So is it worth losing your life for a man that doesn't even love you? See, those are the things you need to think about.
Yeah.
Is it worth it? You know. So once you make that decision, just go for it. Because God wants us to be happy. You know, I don't think our Father, our Heavenly Father, wants us to be in a marriage that we always cry, we're not ourselves, we can't express ourselves, we can't be ourselves. You know, when I left the marriage, I had to start working on, because I went through trauma. I had to start working on me because I don't even know who this person was. I started working on me, I went through therapy, you know, about 2 therapies to get me back. My English was, mental. My head was messed. Sorry?
Seek for help.
Seek for help, you know. So I had to go through all that. My English was messed up.
Oh my
God.
God.
I completely messed up because I could not speak English anymore. I had to go back to school again to start learning how to speak because of the trauma I went through, you see. Then I had to start adding value to me.
Completely eroded.
I was completely eroded.
Completely eroded. Yes. Yeah. I was sharing this with someone. There was a young lady that I used to know before she got married. She was so quick, witty, extremely eloquent, very smart, and everything. Then she got married. So I ran into her at the airport one day with her husband, and I tried, exchanging pleasantries with her. Oh my God, because I haven't seen her for a while, and she was completely timid.
That was where I used to be.
Timid. She couldn't express She
That
was,
was it.
she was
Mm.
all over the place
All over
without
the
me.
place.
She
All
was,
over the place.
yes, she was all over.
That was me before, you
So
know.
later on, I said to her, I said, you have to see me. Now I'm seeing someone who had been through the same thing now. And when she came
Completely.
out, you know what she told me? She said, Mama, he took everything away from me.
Completely. Everything.
For me, it's really a sad thing for anyone.
Yeah, it's very sad. There's one time I went somewhere around Finchley. If
Yeah.
you're in London, you know North London. So I met one of my friends because they know how good I used to be.
Yes.
So I went there. I didn't know anything was wrong with me. And she was like, Hannah, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. So are you sure you're okay? I said, yeah. Because she was
Mhm.
so shocked that I was looking all crazy,
Oh my
you
God.
know, because of the whole, because you don't take care
Mm.
of yourself anymore. You don't feel love,
Yeah,
you
that's
just, it's terrible.
who's your self-worth and all that. Okay.
So,
Now, what do you say to a young lady? She's in a relationship, it hasn't culminated to marriage yet. And the
yeah.
man is already beating her up, or vice versa. What do you say?
I'll just tell her, come out of it. Because once a beater is always a beater.
That's the truth.
Once they beat you once, they'll continue
They
punching you. And one day they might take your life. So why be in a relationship where someone, I believe if you love something, you can't hurt that thing.
so true.
You know, you must love that person. So I don't believe that that's love.
Hmm.
It might
Hmm.
be obsession because they might have to think it might be obsession because there's two different things between love and obsession. It
Yes.
might seem similar.
I believe very strongly that someone who is abusive needs someone to tolerate him or her to continue.
That's right.
Okay, so
Yeah,
the fact that you are allowing it, is also giving you more power to do more, isn't it?
exactly. Yeah. And not even about the punching,
Good.
psychologically as well. Sorry?
Run, 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 run,
Yeah. Run for your life.
run for
Run for your dear
life.
life.
Mm,
It's not worth it.
it's not.
No, it's not. No, it's not worth it. Honestly, it's not. I would always say it. It is not. I'll say it to everyone, even to my daughter. You can't be in an abusive marriage or relationship. Stay away. If, if it's a relationship, then you're lucky.
Let me read this to you. Maybe it will resonate. This is
Okay.
coming from a Mali girl from South Africa as well. And she said, narcissists or abusers are very controlling. They think they're always correct and very clever.
That's
Everyone
right.
is always wrong and stupid. When they get into any older space, they want to dominate and take over. Most of them are very inferior and insecure.
That's right.
Hence such arrogance. Because of insecurities, they will always show you reasons why your idea would never work. Narcissists are naturally very difficult beings. Living with a narcissist, it takes stubbornness and determination to live, and so on.
They're
Does that
very bipolar. Narcissists, they're very bipolar. One minute they're happy, the next minute they're not.
they
That
not?
they change again.
They're
The
very
ne-
unstable. You don't know. You
Unstable.
they're going to
Very
become
unstable.
strong. Yes,
Yeah.
you think that everything is okay with them, and the next minute they
Yeah.
switch.
They switch again. You know. Why would you
Yes,
want to be? Why would you want to be with someone like that? That switches. It just messes up your psyche. You
yeah,
know.
that's the
So
truth.
honestly, I'm very grateful to God for giving me a second chance to live, and that's why when I talk about, I'm very sensitive. I talk about this. I always want to just voice out and tell people my story because
Mm.
it might help someone that is already going through it now. At least we can save more lives. Look at what happened to Osinachi. That was the same thing that was about to happen to me.
To you as well.
Remember, I said I've died like more than 7 times. I would stop breathing and God will
Are
resurrect me.
you serious? It was that
Yes, it was that bad. And it affected my mental, trauma and all that. It was
bad.
God that brought me back to who I am today. I had to change my status, start adding value to myself, got my fantastic job, living good life now. I'm just
That
happy.
supposed
You
to.
see?
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. Well, from what I see, all the guests have gone. I think maybe there's a disconnection somewhere. But
Oh,
between you and I, what do you say to the man? Okay. Is there a way a man like that can still be helped?
I always say that because my son had the problems forgiving
Because
his dad.
the reason why just before you said that, Jackson said, please, it's better to marry your friend, okay? Yes, don't marry your enemy. Because if you marry your enemy, you're in trouble. If you marry your friend will
Yeah,
always be back no matter what. Don't
that's right.
marry your enemy. All right, well, let's try rounding this up today. It's been a wonderful time, wherever you're watching, around the world. Thank you so much for being a part of this. Can you just say the last word, and so that we can just go?
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Okay. So, saying this, whether you're a man, yes, you can seek for help. That's why we have trained people who are psychologists who might be able, to help you whichever way it is, or whatever you might be confronted with. You can actually still be helped in that regard. And for a woman, please, you've heard what the woman who Miss Hannah had experienced over the years before she finally had the courage to call it quit. Well, if you do not, then find a way to drag both of you, for help, because it is so vitally important. Otherwise, you will lose everything that has to do with you. So everyone who has joined in today and has participated one way or the other, this is actually appreciating you. Thank you for being a part of Like Gist with Mama Helen today. It has been a pleasure. God bless you. We're looking forward to seeing you again some other time. And then, of course, to all Nigerians out there, tomorrow is election. Well, GRO, do whatever you have to do and be a part of it. Let it be that PVC in your hand is not for nothing. I mean, or should I say it's for something, as it were. So use it wisely. Use it wisely. Let it be that at the end of the day, it will be able to bring us as a nation to a better place, by the grace of God. So I want to use this opportunity in appreciating Mrs. Fechi. Thank you for being a part of today's program. And then, of course, Miss Hannah Amaka Chinedu. Thank you so very much. Our love and regards to the First Lady of Anambra State. And then, of course, we also want to believe that your foundation in the UK is doing extremely well as well. It's
Yeah,
really a pleasure. Thank you. And to everyone who has joined in from every part of the world, thank you so very much indeed for being a part of this program. It is our prayer that whatever is wrong in your home shall be made right by this living God. One of our guests said, go to God in prayer. Continue to pray, but don't also forget that there are certain things that has to be handled, and if it means for you to seek for help, please don't hesitate to do so. Don't die, in marriage. The covenant of life is greater than marriage. Okay, thank you. A big hug from me to you. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of it. And thank you again, Miss Hannah. Thank you for
yeah,
sharing.
thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
You really blessed a lot of people. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.